Hey everyone, welcome back to my Project 13. I want to do a video on a comparison with the Nexus 6 up against the brand new kid on the block, the Motorola Moto X Pure Edition 2015. Now, I got the Nexus 6 for $349 at Best Buy, and this is why this is in the conversation. Both made by Motorola. One is a 6-inch device and the other is a 5.7-inch device. It is going to be a year old, but at $349 compared to $399 on the Moto X, there are a lot of folks out there wondering which device they should go for. The Nexus 6 is still a bad boy in a lot of ways when it comes to having an everyday smartphone in hand as a daily driver. It has been a wonderful device since I purchased it. I've had no battery issues. I've had no issues whatsoever with that device. So this is going to be a good comparison, but at the same time, look at their own individual abilities and what they do and what the benchmark scores are and what the speed tests under Wi-Fi T-Mobile. And then you can judge, on your own what you want to see when it comes to individual devices or in the comparison as far as these devices, up against each other. So let me give you an overview on the Motorola X Pure Edition. We are talking about a 5.7-inch device at 1440 by 2560, 520 pixels per inch. It is Corning Gorilla Glass 3. It is running Android Lollipop 5.1. It is a Qualcomm Snapdragon 808, a dual-core 1.8 gigahertz, and a quad-core 1.44 gigahertz. Adreno 418. It has micro SD expansion up to 128 gigs of memory. Internally, it's got 3 gigs of RAM. I got the 16 gigabyte version. You can get this in a 32 and a 64. It's got a 21 megapixel camera on the back, which I uploaded some pictures on that, and I think they're really, really nice. I'm liking the camera. 5 megapixel on the front. Now, on the Nexus 6 device, we have a 6-inch device, 13 megapixel camera, 2 megapixel on the front, 3 gigs of RAM, and this is the 16 gig version. You can get a 64. I picked up the 16 for $349. It is an AMOLED capacitive touchscreen. It is 1440 by 2560 at 493 pixels per inch. Now, it doesn't have as many pixels because it's a little bit of a larger device. It does have Corning Gorilla Glass 3 as well. It is running Android Lollipop 5.1, Qualcomm Snapdragon 805. So that's an 805 Nexus 6 up against the 808. It is a quad-core 2.7 gigahertz Adreno 420. Again, I mentioned it's the 32 gig version and not the 64. 3 gigs of RAM. I didn't get the 64. It was $50 more. So I mentioned the 13 megapixel camera on the back and the 2 megapixel on the front. So anyway, I didn't quite put all that in order, but that's the overview of what's on this device on top and underneath. What I like most about these devices is that they're pretty much 95% stock Android. I am becoming a big, huge fan more and more every day of just stock Android. And I just don't like bloatware. So let's see how the old boy does against the new kid and see individual performance and a comparison. We are going to start with the Play Store and see how quick these apps open up. Nexus 6 takes the first round. Now these got to fully load up, so you can see the Nexus 6 is struggling just a little bit there. There we go. Well, there's one now for the Moto X. Moto X. Nexus 6. So I'm not going to really keep score. I want you to just kind of watch what they do. Moto X. Well, that was a close one. And these are some of your everyday apps that you use and some extras. And I do have a few games on here. Whoa, that was quick. This one takes a little bit to load up. It's a video editor that I use. Oh, that was pretty quick too. My files. Let's go into a web page, Android Authority. These pages sometimes have a lot to load up. And, well, there you go. The Moto X. YouTube. And let's go to a video. That's a new one. Let's check this one out real quick. See which one loads up the fastest.
When the Messiah comes, Rome will be nothing. Until then. The Nazarene city rise again after 3 days. We will lose peace and order if it's...
Another.
Hey everybody, Some Gadget Guy here, and
Well,
we're wrapping up our time with the
Moto
other
X.
premium phablet Samsung here, and we're wrapping up our time with the...
Now let's get into some games here. Now remember, we need these to fully load up. And it looks like the Nexus 6 is not going to take this one. The Moto X is the winner there. And let's do Plants vs. Zombies 2. Looks like the Moto X is going to... Well, there it is. One more game here. We got Asphalt 8. So the 808 is kicking a little bit of butt here in the game section. Telephone. Moto X. Settings. Both very responsive too. Very fluid, very, very silky. No issues there. Google Plus. Well, Nexus 6, I think, took that one. And let's go into IMDb. And the Nexus 6 took that one because, there we go, just uploaded all the information there on the Moto X. And my movie player. Moto X. So that concludes the app opening test. So hopefully you have an idea of how quick they're responsive to the apps, depending on what you're going into, whether it's just a regular everyday app like Google Maps or Play Store Photos. Then you got a web page and you got some games. So that gives you an idea of how individually they're performing and as a comparison. What we're going to do next is a speed test. Now, remember, this is under Wi-Fi, and I have my Wi-Fi going through Comcast, 4G LTE through T-Mobile. I usually run 3 of these just to give you a good idea of how well these devices perform in a speed test. So you can see the downloads and the uploads. This video will end up being a bit long, so at some point, especially during the benchmark test, you may want to go get a soda, some coffee, some water, and come back and look at the scores at the end, or you can just skim through the video all the way to the end and you can get the scores. I'm not going to play any music in the background. Typically, you'll see reviews that do that. I'm just going to let it run through, and then you can choose to do what you want as far as forwarding the video. Okay, so on the first round, you got the Nexus 6 doing 3.45 megabits on the download, and the upload 6.25 megabits per second. The Moto X 7.63 megabits per second on the download, 4.00 upload. Okay, so we're going to do another one. Remember, I run 3 of these just to make sure I get somewhat of an accurate reading on the speed tests. I'm going to straighten out this camera just a bit. There we go. Wow. Moto X 0.78 megabits per second on the downloads. And look at the Nexus 6 on 2.96 megabits. Whew. Uploads for the Nexus 6 was 4.00 up against the 2.91 on the Moto X. Hopefully you can see that visually there on the video. Oh, and this will be the last one. Then we're going to run the Antutu benchmark test. This one was a little bit closer with the downloads, 3.76 to 4.19 megabits per second. Uploads on the final run here, we got 2.72 up against 2.96 megabits per second on the uploads. So if we go to results, you can see that on the downloads, you got probably 3.00 would be an accurate reading between all 3. And on the uploads for the Nexus 6, wow, I would probably say about a 4. That was way off there. And over here we got 4 jumping up all the way to 7, 2 to 4, so about a 3. And in here maybe about a 3 or 4. Wow. So hopefully you got what you needed out of that speed test. 3 runs, gives you some numbers there. If this is one of the things that you like in your device and you like to know this information, then hopefully this gives you that. So we're going to go back out and we are going to start the one that takes forever. Okay, so we are going to use Antutu Benchmark v5.7.1 on both of these devices. The final test, Nexus 6 up against the Motorola Pure Edition 2015. Let's begin the test. So again, like I said, if you either want to go forward and just look at the scores at the end, you can do that, or you can go and get something to eat, get something to drink, get ready for your day. But I'm going to let this run on here, and hopefully you've liked this individual performance. Hopefully you like the comparison. I want to reiterate how much I'm enjoying the Nexus 6, and this is a device well worth picking up for $349, and that's why it's given a lot of these new devices a challenge, because the Moto X being $399 is well worth that price. It's an awesome device. Outside of that screen issue, like I said, and again, that's probably just a batch of devices that Amazon got a hold of, because there's nothing been going on out there in the review world or anything else that I've heard that anybody else has had this issue. I'm just happen to be the fortunate one that's gone through that. But outside of that, this device is just amazingly fast. It doesn't lag. It doesn't stutter. You can't ask for more in a device with that. That's what you want when you purchase a device for $300, and especially if it's $500, $600, $700. Now, for the Nexus 6, at the time when it was $649 or close to $700, no, I wouldn't have picked it up. Too much money. But at that price, you really have to consider that device over the Moto X. The update to 5.1 really took care of a lot of the battery issues with the the OS running in the background. Apparently that was taking up a lot of battery and, you know, the Android operating system. So there was some issues there, but more so now when Marshmallow comes out, I've read a few articles that that's going even to take care a lot more of that issue. So we're, you know, it's going to become more of a stable device, even more so than it is now. And I'm pretty happy with what it does. I mean, I'm really happy. Probably be one of the best devices I've ever used in hand as a daily driver. So I really urge you to think hard about what you're going to decide to pick up. I know a lot of you also are waiting for those Nexus devices by Huawei and LG. And Sony's releasing some devices. You know, Blue's got a flagship device finally coming out for $349, I think, on Amazon on the 29th of September. And they're calling it a flagship killer. And when they say flagship killer, not that it's better than a flagship like a Note 5 or an LG G4, but when what it's doing is, for the price point that these devices are being priced at, that's where they're killing those expensive flagship device. They're totally killing it, because when you can only pay $350, $400 and get everything you need as a user on a device, then that is a flagship killer. Well, here we go. The scores. Let's see. Wow. I'm going to pick up my Nokia Lumia 1520 so I can give you a closer look at these scores. You got the Nexus 6 at 48,822, and you got the Moto X Pure Edition 2015 at 47,539. The Nexus 6 came in first place, the Moto X underneath the Galaxy Note 4, and the Mizzou MX4. Hopefully I said Mizzou right. I don't know how to say that. Anyway, wow. Amazing. Simply amazing. I'm going to put this back down just so you can finish off this vid. Again, thank you for watching. Those are amazing scores. The old boy up against the new kid, still hanging in there a year later. Worth considering, worth buying. Everybody makes their individual choices at the end of the day with their money in pocket. So whatever you decide to get, I hope that you enjoy it to the fullest. Great devices right here. Nexus 6 by Motorola. The Moto X Pure Edition 2015 by Motorola. Thanks everybody, my Project 13. Hope you enjoyed the video. Give me a thumbs up. Keep subscribing. And keep responding. Peace as always. God bless. I'm out till the next vid.